Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to the Kids Spot. Today in the Kids Spot, we're going to talk all about making mistakes. Have you ever made a really big mistake, boys and girls? I know I definitely have. There have been times when I've shown anger towards someone else. I'm sure there have been times when I've said something to someone else that hurts their feelings, or maybe when I've let a friend down who really needed me. We all make mistakes, boys and girls, because we all live with sin in our lives. In today's story, we come to the time of Jesus' arrest. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, how can the police arrest Jesus? He has never done anything wrong. The Bible tells us that he was the only person who ever lived without sin in their lives. Well, sadly, boys and girls, the Roman guards find a way to arrest him, even though we know he never did anything wrong. One of Jesus' closest friends played a part in his arrest. He betrayed him. Today, we're going to take a look at the disciple Peter. We know that Peter was one of Jesus' closest friends. But despite that, in today's story, he makes a really big mistake. A mistake that ends up betraying Jesus. A mistake that goes along with this animal right here, a rooster. That's right, boys and girls. There's a farm animal in our story today. But before we dive into all of that, boys and girls, let's get up and praise the God who we know is our best friend today and always. Our first song is called What a Friend We Have in Jesus. I hope you'll join me in it. Theo. How are you today?
Well, Miss Jennifer, I'm not having such a great day today. I think I made a really big mistake with one of my best friends.
Really, Theo? What happened?
Well, it started off as a great day because I made a new friend, Max. He just moved down the street.
That sounds awesome, Theo.
It was until my old friend Ralph came over to play. He got really upset that I was playing with Max. I told him to go home because I had made a new friend. I think I really hurt his feelings and I feel awful.
Oh no, Theo. It sounds like his feelings were probably hurt. Remember, we all make mistakes. I'm sure you can fix it by asking Ralph for forgiveness.
What is forgiveness, Miss Jennifer?
Forgiveness is what you give to someone when they have done something to you that was wrong. Forgiveness is being willing to forget the mistake someone has made and continue to be their friend.
I need to hurry and ask Ralph to forgive me. I want to still be friends with him, and maybe he can be friends with Max too. Thank you, Miss Jennifer, for teaching me about forgiveness.
You're welcome, Theo. Why don't you stick around and listen to our story about how Peter makes a big mistake and then Jesus forgives him? Then you can go talk to Ralph.
Okay, Miss Jennifer.
All right, boys and girls, now it's time for our Bible story. Today, our story begins just after that special meal that Jesus had with all of his friends. Remember, boys and girls, that Jesus knew the story. Before the story happened, he knew everything. So he had been telling his disciples all along, there's going to come a time when I'm not here anymore. There's going to come a time when some of you are going to say that you don't even know me. You're going to betray me. And the disciples, of course, are all looking around and they can't believe what Jesus is saying because they know in their hearts how much they love Jesus and how much of a friend he is to them. How could they ever do something like say they didn't know who he was or betray him? They can't even imagine doing that. But just like Jesus said it would, it happens. One of Jesus' disciples, whose name was Judas, he had already betrayed him when our story opens up because he had gone to the Roman guards and for just a little bit of money, he had told them where Jesus was. So they knew where to go to arrest him. Our story today picks up with Jesus being arrested. The guards have found him. And Peter, who remember was really one of Jesus' closest friends. He was a disciple. We've read lots of stories about Peter during our time here in the Kids Spot. He's standing outside. And I can imagine Peter is, of course, very nervous. He's probably pacing back and forth. Might be chewing on his fingernails a little bit. That's what I do when I get nervous. Because he's worried about what is going on with Jesus on the inside of this house. And a guard who is standing outside comes to Peter. And he asks Peter, "Do you know this man, Jesus? Is he your friend?" This next story clip that we're going to watch is going to act out this story for us, boys and girls. I think it does a great job of telling the story, maybe even better than I could. So I want you to listen carefully to what Peter says back to that guard when he asks, "Do you know this man? Is he not your friend?" Listen carefully for what Peter says. Let's take a look at it.
Hey kids, have you ever made a really big mistake? Maybe you put your shoes on the wrong feet, or forgot your homework, or maybe you accidentally called your teacher mom.
Oh wait, all of those mistakes aren't really big, but today we're going to talk about a big mistake.
A big mistake made by Peter. Let's get into the story.
Jesus was betrayed and arrested. Jesus did a ton of cool things on earth, like heal people and teach them, and show them that he was the way into heaven.
And a lot of people loved him for it. But the mean religious leaders wanted him stopped.
So they paid one of Jesus' disciples to betray him, and he was arrested.
Peter was being questioned right outside.
The guards have taken Jesus to a house to be on trial.
Peter was too scared to follow Jesus inside, so he hid outside the house.
People saw him there and asked him if he knew Jesus.
Can you guess what he said? Peter denied Jesus 3 times.
That's right, 3 times. 3 different people asked him if he knew Jesus. And all 3 times he said he never knew him.
You would think that all Jesus has done for him, Peter would stand up for him.
But instead, he acted like Jesus was just a stranger. I bet that hurt Jesus' feelings pretty bad.
I bet Peter felt pretty bad for lying and hurting Jesus too.
But there's good news here, kids.
Even when we really mess up, Jesus gives us a second chance. After his arrest, Jesus was killed on the cross. But 3 days later, he rose again.
And then he went to go see Peter and the rest of the disciples. And you know what he did?
He forgave him. He knew Peter was scared and made a mistake. And Peter learned a great lesson that day.
And he went on to be a great leader in the church. And he wrote some books in the Bible.
And in one of them, he wrote this memory verse.
It is by his great mercy that we have been born again, because God raised Jesus Christ from the dead.
Because Jesus gave him a second chance, Peter devoted the rest of his life to tell people about Jesus.
So kids, next time you make a mistake, small or big,
remember, Jesus will forgive you and give you a second chance.
Later, boys and girls, after Peter denied knowing Jesus, you can imagine he felt terrible. He knew what he had done was wrong. You know, that feeling that you get in the pit of your stomach when you've done something and you know you're about to get in trouble for it. But you also just feel really bad. Anytime I do something that I know hurts somebody else, I have that feeling inside of just feeling awful, just feeling icky. And I'm sure Peter was worried. Will Jesus still love me? Will Jesus still be my friend? Will Jesus forgive me for what I've done? And that's where we really have the lesson of our story today, boys and girls, because Jesus does all of those things. Jesus doesn't say, no, Peter, you've done something wrong to me. I don't know you anymore. That's not what he does at all. He continues to love Peter. He continues to be Peter's friend, despite this awful thing that he has done. And you see, boys and girls, this lesson from Jesus is all about forgiveness. He is willing to forgive someone who has done something very terrible to him. So I believe that Jesus calls us, boys and girls, to do that same thing with our hearts. When someone does something to us that is wrong, they call us a name, they're mean to us, they don't let us play the game at recess, we are called to forgive them. Just like Jesus forgave Peter in our story today. So I challenge you to do that this week, boys and girls. Whether it's your brothers or sisters, your friends at school, anybody that does you wrong. When someone makes mistakes, be the person who is willing to accept their apology and offer them forgiveness. Let's pray, boys and girls. Dear God, you see the good we do, and you also see the wrong that we do. You know the things about us that are worth loving, and you know the things that aren't worth loving. You know us at our best and at our worst. For your love that never ends, we are so grateful. In your name I pray. Amen. Today's story reminds us, boys and girls, that Jesus understands our mistakes and is able to make all things new with his forgiveness. We all strive to do the right things, but we are human and we make mistakes. Jesus knows, like no one else, how to take what is broken and put all of those pieces back together. That's what this next song is all about. It's called Jesus, Forgive Me, and I hope you'll join me in singing it today.
You take all the pieces of my life, put them back together, make it all alright. Oh, you forgive me. Only you can heal my broken heart, make all things new with a brand new start. Oh, you forgive me. You forgive me. I try so hard to do things right, but I make the wrong choice sometimes. And you forgive me. No one knows me, God, like you. You see who I am, not what I do. And you forgive me. You take all the pieces of my life, put them back together, make it all alright. Oh, you forgive me. Only you can heal my broken heart, make all things new with a brand new start. Oh, you forgive me. I try so hard to do things right, but I make the wrong choice sometimes. And you forgive me. No one knows me, God, like you. You see who I am, not what I do. And you forgive me. You take all the pieces of my life, put them back together, make it all alright. Oh, you forgive me. Only you can heal my broken heart, make all things new with a brand new start. Oh, you forgive me. You take all the pieces of my life, put them back together, make it all alright. Oh, you forgive me. Only you can heal my broken heart, make all things new with a brand new start. Oh, you forgive me. You forgive me. You forgive me.
Okay, boys and girls, now it is craft time. Today we talked all about the rooster and what that stood for Peter. I have a fun coloring sheet for you to complete, boys and girls, that goes right along with that. Your parents can find the sheet attached to this Kids Spot email. Have them printed out, and then you can look down at the bottom. Each of the different numbers are assigned a different color. If you color everything the proper way, it'll uncover a hidden picture. And I bet you can probably guess what you're going to find. I hope you have a great time today, boys and girls, doing that at home today. Remember, boys and girls, that God blesses us all, and that means you, and that means me. Remember that the story of Christmas is alive in our hearts each and every day. Until we see each other again back here at Central Pres, I hope you have a great day and that you'll join me here in the Kids Spot again next week for our very last Kids Spot episode. Bye-bye, boys and girls.